All right, I'm really sorry about that. Some days are just like that, I guess. So I am going to dive back in here and hope that you can see me. And if not, then it should still record and I can post it for you. So this next section we're going to do is I'm actually going to make a small little grid inside this ribbon. Okay, and then I am going to create my e-mingle, and these are going to be longer and skinnier because they're more of a rectangle than a square. Technology is super fun, and sometimes it cooperates and sometimes it doesn't, and in the grand scheme of things, I guess I am just very happy that I can still be teaching even with having to have everything kind of shut down. And we will just make do, right? I should also be really, really glad that's the first time that's happened. I haven't had any real hiccups in any of my classes or anything. So the reason that I like doing this one this way is, I don't know if you can see, but as my ribbons curve here, the shapes have changed. So they're not really square anymore. They're kind of almost like a kite shape or a diamond. So my e-mingle starts to look different as well. So now I have two that are fairly light, and I have this one that's kind of dark. I'm going to break this one up into some boxes as well. Only a couple here because not much of this is going to show. And I'm going to switch to a bigger pen because, again, I like to show you how changing up your pen can make all of the difference in your tangling just by using the same exact pattern and a different pen. Okay. All right. Let's see here. All right, I'm going to set that one off to the side. I'm going to come back and do this last one for today. This is actually one of my favorites. I'm going to just do a ribbon of this because I think that I am going to probably lose my internet again. And I'm going to have to go fight with my router. So I'm going to come in. I'm going to make, again, I'm going on a diagonal here just because this gives me the most space to demonstrate this for you. I'm going to make some boxes. Okay, and this one, I call it ballooning. And I know that probably sounds silly, but when I was right out of college, I had an apartment, and my apartment was over a entertainment company. And because my apartment was over an entertainment company, I learned some really cool things, and one of the things that I learned to do was do balloon sculpture, like balloon animals and things like that. It was super fun, and every so often my landlord would be like, hey, I need somebody to fill in, and then I would end up going and I would help out. and I would do face painting, or I would do balloon animals, and then I would get money off of my rent, which was always nice. All right, and I kind of wandered off there telling you that story, but the reason that I bring that up is because drawing these this way always makes me think of balloon animals. So I'm gonna draw it. You notice I drew this kind of big. I'm gonna make my little spirals, my little swirls here, okay? But then I'm gonna come in, right? And I'm gonna do some rounding of these corners, right? So everywhere there's a little corner, I'm just kind of cutting off that edge, curving it. And when I round my edges, I bring my line, you know, I kind of try and bring it into the line that's already there. Okay, so then here at the end, I just kind of leave that one straight and bring it in over there. And then of course, I'll do these corners too. Okay, so it kind of has this like Zeppeli look to it, where it's just like I took a balloon and I scrunched it all up and I shoved it in the box. Okay, so I'm gonna do that to all of these. And I like to the corner just a little bit so it looks like it's kind of bent. Okay. And again, I'm just going to round my edges there and there. And balloon is not an official Zentangle term by any stretch of the imagination. That's kind of my term. One of these days I should demonstrate making balloon animals for all of you. Be fun, something fun and new to put on my page, right? Completely unrelated to everything else I do, but why not? All right, so you can see how that gives a very, very different look. I like to add a little bit of details in there by coming in with my pen and adding some little, like almost like little tick marks. Again, so that it looks like there's a bend, or a swerve, or a little something right there. And then this one's really fun to shade. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add shading on each side. So if I'm thinking of this like a balloon, right, here and here, and then I'll turn my tile, and I would go here and here. So each of these little paths, or if you think of it like a labyrinth, then on each labyrinth part. Okay, so bring in my tortillon and I just kind of soften it a little bit. And this one doesn't really take a lot of shading to really get a great effect. I know a lot of people use little like circles to shade, or when they use their tortillon to shade. I am not good at using my tortillon that way. I tend to use it like I would use the side of a pencil. And that works for me. And I do encourage you to kind of play with what works best for you. So if you notice, I didn't add graphite all around this, and that's because I have quite a bit of graphite that's already on my tortillon, and I can always add more, but I don't like to add too much to start with because if everything is shaded, then nothing is shaded. If everything starts to take on just that gray tone, then you lose all of those highlights and lowlights. Okay, but I am going to come in here and add a little more. All right. E-mingle can really kind of be shaded any way you want it to, because all the different ways you shade it are going to give you a bunch of different looks. All right, so there's that one. I want to come back to this one that we got intro on, right? And I'm going to shade this as well. I'm actually going to go through with a heavier pen and outline just the outsides of each of my hollabah pattern to kind of add a border to my e-mingle. And by adding it to these lighter ones, it kind of brings in those darker patterns that are on the sides. Okay, then I'm going to take my graphite. I'm going to shade for the hollabah so much more than the e-mingle to start with, because I want it to look like this big ribbon is laying over top of the smaller one. Shading's magic. It does the coolest things. You know, you start out and it looks really flat, and then just a little bit of graphite, and bam! Now I feel like emerald. All right, so if I wanted to shade some of these, I could go in and I could shade by adding a little bit of darkness in between all of these squares. And then it starts to look like maybe charms in a bracelet or individual jumps. Okay. Coming back to that first one that we worked on, when I was doing these, right? One of the things that's fun to do is to just kind of go in and add some weighting to all of your corners, or maybe vary the weights of your lines. And you can alternate, you know, so maybe you have weighted corners in this one, and then you skip one, and then you weight the lines in that one, and then you will end up with a varying pattern with those minimal little tiny details. My internet is hiccuping again, so I am going to wrap this one up today. I'm sorry it was kind of broken up and that it was not nice and smooth for you, but I am going to leave it posted, and I will have a sheet later with the different variants and the different patterns that I went over today. It looks like I actually might be back. So one last thing I wanted to show you is just a reminder, really, that you don't have to always go with the shape that you see something first drawn in. So e-mingle, we drew like this. And I always laugh with the e-mingle. It always sounds like a dating site to me. We had a square, and now we have a rectangle. It's the same pattern, whether you do it as a triangle or even something like a heart. So I encourage you to kind of play with it, make it your own, see what kind of fun things that you can do. Think outside the box. Don't be afraid of it just because you've seen it always drawn in a grid or because you've seen it always square. There's a lot you can do with this, and I encourage you to have a little bit of fun. I will have a sheet up with these patterns later with the finished tiles, and I hope I see everyone next week.